I don't really like practical cars. I like cars that are raw and focused. However, I've recently taken up golf, which means I need a boot that I can fit my golf clubs in, which made me think, what practical sports cars are there out there for a reasonable price? Well, I thought I'd start my search at £30,000, which is quite expensive, but if you want to see the video again at under £15,000 instead, then do hit the like button. 1,000 likes and I'll make that video. Without further ado, let's look at 5 cheap practical sports cars you can buy for under 30k. Let's get started with the base Lotus Evora, a slightly controversial sports car from the Lotus brand, mostly because it got some Grand Tourer qualities, which is not usually what you expect from Lotus, but then this car did pave the way for the more recent Emira, so it certainly was important. It comes with a 3.5 litre V6 engine producing 276 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 4.8 seconds. Not bad considering I'd say it's relatively underpowered, but the core benefit of that engine is that it comes from Toyota, meaning its reliability record is so much better than the old engines used by Lotus in the past. This was the first all-new platform for the Lotus brand since the Elise in 1995, and the intention by Lotus was to build a more practical sports car than their Elise and Exige offerings. It's not been a total sales success, but it also hasn't been a total sales flop either. It's always going to be hard to get people who like raw, aggressive Lotuses to buy something a bit more sensible, but as I said, this car walks so the Emira could run. It's a 2+2 configuration, meaning you get space on the rear seats to fit either very small passengers or, more realistically, use as extra storage. Plus you also get a cooled boot behind the engine, which you can fit 2 sets of golf clubs in according to owners on forums. It's a more luxurious car inside than other Lotuses too, and all in it's not a bad offering at all. People just questioned how much of a Lotus it was. These will cost you around £22,000 at the bottom end, which is a lot of car for their money, and at £30,000 you'll be looking at a 2010 model with around 60,000 miles on the clock. As I mentioned, reliability on that engine is generally very good, but repairs on Lotuses are typically quite costly. It's also supposed to do around 30 miles per gallon, which isn't bad at all for the performance. Next up we have a car I have been personally considering for quite some time, the Jaguar F-Type, which you can get in a few different engine options. We're going to focus on the 3-litre supercharged V6 engine in this video, which makes 374 brake horsepower and does 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds, at least in the more powerful S spec. You can get the non-S instead, which drops the power down, but you also lose the adaptive suspension from standard, which provides a more comfortable ride, particularly useful for city folk like me or long cruisers, as this is a Grand Tourer. Originally the F-Type nameplate was reserved for a concept car back in 1982 before being applied to the car that ended up being the Aston Martin DB7, then it bounced over to a concept car in 2000 before the F-Type convertible finally arrived in 2013. That convertible is slightly less practical than the coupe though, which has a massive 407 litres of storage space and a rear boot that can fit 2 sets of clubs in depending on the golf bag sizes. But even if you're not a golfer, that rear space really does offer a lot of storage, mostly because it's supposed to be a Grand Tourer. If you're going for a drive around Europe, the S in particular offers you a great comfortable ride to eat up motorway miles, the performance to enjoy twisty mountain roads, and the boot space to take your suitcase along for the journey. It's also quoted as doing 32 miles per gallon, which is not bad at all for longer journeys, and though I think the interior is a bit boring in these, it's definitely more focused on comfort for a Grand Tour. These will run you around £18,000 at the bottom end for a convertible, and £30,000 will get you into a 2015 coupe with around 30,000 miles on the clock. A leaking diff and some rattles and squeaks are known on these, mostly build quality related, like the door handles not working. We have a very different type of sports car taking third on this list, the Ford Mustang GT, which is of course a muscle car, or more specifically a pony car. It comes with a 5-litre V8 engine producing 410 brake horsepower, which you get to 60 in 4.6 seconds. Not bad at all for the heaviest car on the list by some margin. This is the 6th generation Mustang, and I feel like it was hugely successful in gaining more European interest, helped of course by the fact that it was the first Mustang to be marketed and sold around the world, with right-hand drive examples being produced for the first time too. But outside of that, I just think it looks so much cleaner, maintaining the muscle but packaging it up in a little more premium manner. The interior too is simple and clean, and the car comes with 408 litres of luggage space, which is plenty enough for 2 golf bags, plus there's space for some more stuff on the rear seats. All in, this is a genuinely solid car in terms of practicality. Those rear seats too are also actually more usable than most of the other cars on this list, as they dip down nice and low to try and help people's heads fit into the car, though it is still better for your shorter friends or children. It did also come with the more economical 2.3 litre EcoBoost block, but something in me won't accept driving a non-V8 Mustang. But that EcoBoost would be a sensible choice given the V8 does 20 miles per gallon, taking away from its daily ability. These are listed anywhere from around the £23,000 mark, and £30,000 is enough to get you a 2016 model with 20,000 miles on the clock. Camshaft sensor magnets can damage synchros on these, which is pretty well known, as with the intake manifold leaking oil, but the main problem reported by owners is actually squeaking noises when turning due to wear on the outer tie rod ends. So I hope you're enjoying this video. If you are, then do hit the like button, I would really appreciate it. As I said, if it gets 1,000 likes, I'll make the same video again at under £15,000 instead. And if you're new here, do hit subscribe, I would really appreciate it. Taking second on the list, we have the third generation Audi TTS, which of course is only the second TTS, given there wasn't an equivalent in the first gen TT. A tad confusing, but the engine isn't confusing at all. It's the fairly typical 2 litre turbocharged inline 4, which you'd usually find in hot hatches, which makes 305 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 4.5 seconds, helped of course by the fact that it's all-wheel drive. It's a super nice and premium feeling car to drive, having done so myself. The only thing I'll say is that it doesn't massively separate itself dynamically from the rest of the VW group, which might not be a bad thing. When you drive it, it feels familiar, comfortable, and of course pretty quick, not dissimilar to a fast Golf or equivalent. It's a super nice car on the interior, very minimalist design and definitely driver focused, with comfortable sporty seats, and of course the rear set of seats too, which are sadly way too small for an average human to sit in, but do offer either extra space to store luggage or fold away to increase the size of the boot, which works perfectly if you're a golfer, because you'll happily fit a couple of golf bags and a trolley in there. Dropping those seats effectively turns the TTS into a miniature flatbed, with some owners carrying bikes in there with front wheels removed. It's focused on being an ideal road car, where the RS is focused on being a fast sports car, which means that it's quite an easy car to drive fast, helped by it being a Quattro of course. These start at around the £15,000 mark, making it the cheapest car on the list, and double that will get you into a 2018 example with 20,000 miles on it. Water leaks are known on these, clutches can go, and there are a couple of known electrical issues, but in general they've been pretty good on reliability and on economy too, at around 40 miles per gallon. Taking the top spot in this video, we have the BMW Z4 M40i, which may sound surprising to some of you, but genuinely a friend of mine's dad has one, and it easily fits his golf clubs and golf equipment into the boot, as very fortunately it has 281 litres of luggage capacity, 50% more boot space than the previous generation. That's despite it having a 3 litre twin turbocharged inline 6 engine, which makes 335 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 4.4 seconds, pretty sick performance out of the car. Many of you will already know that this generation Z4 was built in collaboration with Toyota, hence the new Supra is a very similar car with the same underpinnings, engine options, software and the likes. But what makes the Z4 special in this video is that it's a convertible, and while almost every other car on this list except the Evora comes as a convertible too, they all lose storage space as a result. The Z4 however still maintains good boot space for a convertible sports car, which sets it apart from the rest. It's a great looking car as well regardless, with its inspiration coming from the Z8, so it does look quite muscular, even if I do normally prefer a hardtop convertible roof to the return to a soft top on this generation. It's not just pretty though, it has some great performance thanks in part to its 50-50 weight distribution. It also looks good on the interior, not too over the top, it keeps things simple. Unfortunately it is the most expensive car on the list, starting at our 30k limit for a 2019 model with 60k on it, but you can get 2 litre examples for much less, and you maintain the practicality if not gain thanks to the better fuel economy. As it's a newish car, reliability has generally been quite good on them other than a few recalls, and with Toyota's help we can only hope this trend will continue. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you then do hit the like button, I would really appreciate it, and subscribe as well if you're new here. Massive thanks to the patrons for their support, and to you guys as well for watching. And if you watch a video of me literally restoring my car entirely within 24 hours, then do click here and subscribe down here.